Thank you. You know, I think the things that Neil said to you, you know, these are things that sound awesome. We're talking about the next 50 years. Let's talk about the next week, the things you're going to see in the next week from us. And again, I'm Don Strimbu, my good friend Hans de Bakker here, head of development for BricsCAD Core. Between the two of us, over the next 30 minutes, we're going to show you some of the great new features of V17, but we're going to go one step further too, because we contend that you guys don't know BricsCAD. Okay? I was surprised sitting down with Hans, the number of features that were in, I thought were in 17 too, that I missed that were actually in 17, and some features that were actually in previous releases. We use a very small part of the software on a regular basis. We want to change that for you too. So 3 major tenets here. First, it's all about you. We don't do this, well, we do it for fun, kind of, but we actually do it for you. This is about your performance. The functionality of the software is critical to you getting your job done every day. And so that's something that we think about on a regular basis. One of the things you're going to see in a few seconds is the clean screen function in BricsCAD V18. To me, it's brilliant. The ability to simplify the screen and see the graphics. What's the number one question we get all the time? Oh my God, how can I get all this stuff off of my screen and make my life easier? Well, the quad's been in BricsCAD forever, but most of you don't use it. Hans is going to show you why. A lot of other new features here in V18 to help accelerate the process of creating drawings. That's what it's all about. The faster you can get your concepts into the machine, the faster you can create the drawings, sign, seal, and bill for them, and that's what this business is all about. Now, temporary tracking. How many of you actually use temporary tracking in 3D? Couple. Congratulations. Hans is going to show us how powerful temporary tracking has become in V18, a new way to draw in 3D, a way that really makes sense to current 2D users in any drawing-based CAD system. And this concept of being able to create once and use many times. We've got a couple of great features here, especially around reusing edges and surfaces inside of existing models, boundaries in existing files, but more importantly, a really cool manipulator tool that allows us to copy and move and mirror entities very simply. With that, I want to switch over to Hans because he has some great things he wants to show you.
Have you ever had this feeling that the area where you want to draw is getting too small? It must be familiar to some of us. So you can start to get things out of the way. And if you're doing a good job at that, then probably you can end up with something much better already. But you do not get the feel of this image properly until you actually can do something like this here, clean screen. I'm showing it now from the quad. Of course, there's a shortcut, there's Control-0 key. But look at the difference. What you see suddenly is a clean image. Now, am I in trouble now, like in most applications, when I do no longer have a menu, or I do no longer have a toolbar or a ribbon or a command line? Oh, not with BricsCAD. You can continue. You know you have the quad wherever your cursor happens to be. And if, for instance, in my drawing menu, I would like to have another tool, like a spline, that is not there. So I can customize quad items easily. I go to the quad menu, and there's a ton of tools that you could add, so I will just go and search for this spline. Here it is. So I drag and drop it into my draw menu. It winds up here at the bottom. I want it a bit more at the top. Okay. And that's it. Now, the next time, you see, I have my spline tool available. Okay, let's get back our clean screen, and this time we'll use the shortcut. So can you actually do modeling now or drawing? Let's draw. So from my draw menu, I pick a rectangle and we will model a bench. I could key in exact values, or I can just do something more or less for now. So I can use this as a boundary. I drag it up. Let's model a small bench. And we'll use the manipulator here for the first time. I can enter an exact value, an angle of 5 degrees. I can hover over an entity. So like here, if I want to do something with this solid edge, it was there, so I offset it. It's a new way of drawing. Like here, the boundary is found. I can reuse that boundary. I can use that offset technique that you just saw. I can also use it on a face to offset here on this face. Yeah. I can use the extrude functionality in different ways. It automatically tends to get right at what you wanted to achieve there. So yes, you can model, no problem. But sometimes you will get into a situation where you have this clean screen. There's nothing of the user interface that is in your way, but still, I would like to start modeling and modifying something here in that draw, that wardrobe. So what is the BricsCAD answer to get things out of the way? It's not changing layers and layer states or isolating entities. No, it's like here. And by the way, you see that currently I am modifying a property in place, so you do not need your properties panel all the time around. So this is what we do. And now we have immediate access. And if it's not yet the proper kind of access that you wanted to have, well, you just drag this section to the place you want it to be, or you activate more. That's no problem with BricsCAD. You can activate simultaneously as many as you want, and you get close to what you want to modify. And then let's do some push-pull operation. You see how beautiful this is? By the way, it's just a pleasure to work. Am I the only one to think this is beautiful? I don't know. I think it's gorgeous. And the technology that helps us to do that is created by a company that's here in Paris. It's Redway. So they are the engine, the rendering engine that is making this possible. So you have free access, and this is important also. You can focus on the job, and you don't have to think about layers and all that stuff. So here you now see this kind of dark image, and what you can do with BricsCAD is that for every view you can define other section clip statuses. So like in these two views, in the left one, there's 2 sections that are activated. In the right one, there's only one. So this one, you see, it's not activated, while it is highlighted in the other view, and in this view, it is. But I should hover the right thing. Yeah, so here it is activated. And not only can you have these nice images on screen, you can print them. So if you go and print, you can print them either to a regular printer, like a PDF creator, or this an HP printer, or our built-in print as PDF. And it will produce these lovely views that are great for detailing and for your documentation. It gives unprecedented clarity. Here you see the the PDF file that is produced, we are looking in a PDF viewer. So, yeah, that's the viewing technology. Now, talking about ease of use and giving comfort while modeling, let's see how hard it would be if I wanted to model a slab. And I want this slab to be parallel with this face. Now look what happens. I started the slab command, and you see dynamically, you see this cursor go. It indicates your user coordinate system, and it's a dynamic one. And if I hover over another face, you will see it go along dynamically. And once I decide that it's in a good location, then I can lock it in BricsCAD. And that's important, because in other softwares you can't lock it. And so you can only draw something on top of this face, because else, if you start clicking here, then this is the coordinate system that is going to be applied, and not the one you were hoping for. So here I will now click my Shift key, and you see the color changes, and it's locked. And now I can move outside, and it doesn't change any longer. That's important. It gives you a lot of freedom. And now I middle click, and I do that to start tracking. And you see, the moment I get parallel with the red axis, it shows me. And I key in a distance, like 40, and then I can go in any direction, which is also giving you unprecedented freedom. I can lock any direction. I could say, well, this is the green one, and I will lock it now. And why would I do that? Well, I can snap, for instance, to other locations. And I can now take an offset in the Z direction, 15. And you see, all distances, I still know where I am in space. So this trail, this color trail, is really helpful. And once I decide that I reach the place where I want to start modeling my slab, well, that's it, I'm done. Now let's check. Oh yes, it looks parallel. But is it? Well, let's verify. We have, in BricsCAD, we added the possibility to see values like slope or UCS elevation. This saves you a lot of time. So the slope is 22.8 something. Let's compare that here. Yeah, the slope is 22.8. So you can confirm that you're on the right way. That's important in 3D. Other stuff that is important in 3D is a new tool that we are introducing, and it's the manipulator. By slightly longer clicking, I get this control, and it shows you what it will do. Like, if I would click now, it would start a rotation about the green axis. If I would use this, it would start a rotation about the red axis. If I would use an arrow, it would start a mirror operation. Or if I use one of the tube-like elements, the straight tubes, I would have a move operation. So now I selected this face, and I will rotate it. It's as easy as that. Have you ever seen that kind of ease of rotation? And I can either snap to existing geometry, or I can key in an exact value. Yeah. And if I do a fast click, then there's no manipulator that is getting in my way if I don't need it. And if I do a slow click, it's just slightly longer, a quarter of a second, then I have it there. And then I can start using it. And I can, for instance, do a mirroring. But when you mirror, like here, usually you will want to make a copy. Well, it's as easy as keeping your control key pressed, and you have your copy. So this is a very helpful tool, and I've only scratched the surface here, because you can right-click it, and then you have this menu, and you move it, and you see it behaves like this dynamic UCS cursor. And if the alignment is not as you like it, then you realign it, easy. Or you grab the handle and you move it to another place. it's something you will probably use quite a lot in the future. Also in 2D, it's great to work with. So I'll go back to Don. For
Excellent,
part.
excellent. Thank you so much, Hans. So I think one of the key things is the comment that Eric made earlier, is that there's no innovation in that other CAD program anymore. There's nothing new. They tell you there's nothing new we can do in DWG. I think you've just seen that that's not true. That's not true. And we're going to show you more, because some of the functionality that we've brought to V18 is centered around your data. So first, it's all about you. If you're comfortable and you're operating smoothly, then you're getting your work done faster. Now, you're entrusting your data to the DWG format. Our friends in San Rafael seem to have forgotten that, but we haven't here at Bricsys. How do you access that data? What are new ways to leverage that data, and what are some new ways that you can extract information that in the past was invisible to you as a CAD user? Well, first off, the Drawing Explorer in BricsCAD, which, by the way, has been around for a while, but is greatly improved in V18. All your metadata in one place, the ability to preview layers and their layout, comparing dimension styles, and most importantly, a great function, copy data between different drawings that are open in a single session. Now, another great tool that Hans has already begun to show you is this concept of the properties panel rollover tips. Excuse me, the rollover tips is what he's shown, but the ability to edit values in place. So this combination of Drawing Explorer and the properties panel together can bring you a great level of access to your drawing data, but we go even further. Something called the content browser. Now, in the content browser, we can enumerate all the blocks and entities that you'd want to insert in your drawing, but here's something else. Anybody ever experience in another software package's content browser long waits for the preview blocks to generate? We don't have that problem here. We're very fast. So you can open a new drawing that has thousands of blocks and generate the previews in a matter of seconds, which again, speeds your performance and gets you to your work faster. But something that I think is really exciting, and as someone who always ended up with some entity out in outer space that was causing zoom extents to fail on a regular basis, anybody ever encounter that? There's a line segment out there somewhere that's a billionth of an inch long, and it's 14 light years away from the origin of the UCS. It happens, right? It happens sometimes. And you're always like, how do I find that thing? How do I get it? Well, the structure panel is a wonderful new feature in V18 that allows us to look at our data in different ways. We can dice and slice that information and get more information about it. You can fast switch between different sorting and grouping configurations. It's a single dialogue to learn. 2 challenges, and Hans will show you at least one of those. Find all the zero length lines in your drawing. To be able to group lines by length. What an amazing piece of functionality, and do that instantly in any session. Number 2, I've got this thing that's up in the air somewhere that's messing up my zoom extents. How do I find it? How do I eliminate it? The structure panel takes us to that point very quickly. So take us there.
So what we are going to look at now is the Drawing Explorer, which allows you to look at your drawing and to look at the metadata, like layers. What's on this layer? Or for instance, what's on this layer? And as I click on other layers, I get to see the content. So here you have the cold water pipes. And if I click 2 layers simultaneously, well, then I can see, you can add or remove stuff. So you can very quickly see what is on these layers, besides changing or creating layers, of course, and doing all kinds of stuff. You can have a quick look at dimension styles. Like if I select multiple dimension styles, like here, I immediately see the differences being marked in yellow. I can see only differences. I can have a quick preview of each dimension style. Now, many of these panels are quite interesting to have them around all the time, so we made them dockable, like the layer panel or the blocks. Let's see what you can do with the blocks. This is new functionality. It's like, we call it the content browser. And as you see, it gives you an overview of blocks that are contained in a drawing or in multiple drawings. That you can select the folders that provide you with the sources. And here, yeah, it took like 1 second to fill that. Here also it takes like 1 second, but if you have a second screen available, then you may want to open this up and you can see the overwhelming amount of blocks actually that is in there. In this drawing there's thousands of blocks. So we've been working on the speed to switch back and forth. Now, when you are using content from other drawings, then the units are being taken care of automatically. I can go to and use content from drawings that use a different unit system than the one I'm actually working in. Let's take such an example. I was looking for a door handle. Would there be a door handle in this drawing? Yeah. And I can control the settings, by the way, of how I am going to use this block librarian functionality. So I just drag and drop this thing in here. And I've asked for aligned placement. And you see how it aligns, but I'm going to place it on the door, of course. And once I click, then I can, by moving my cursor back and forth, I can control in which direction it goes. I said that the manipulator is also useful in 2D. Well, this is just one quick example. This is a drawing in imperial units. Would it work just as well? Yeah, I can put the guy to bed. And it does not only work in 2D, you can just as well use it in 3D. Let's give an example of that. Take some 3D blocks. And we will add a T, we drag it in there, it aligns. So here it says, give me the mirroring point, so by dragging my cursor, I just place this thing, and you do that. I could, in fact, very quickly complete that model, while it's not really a piping application here, but you get an idea of the ease of use. Okay, other ways now to, besides these dockable panels, let's look at the other stuff that was mentioned. There's one more interesting panel that you will see being used in many different ways. And here's a few more ways that we will use it. I'll just make it a bit larger. Some drawings look clean at first sight, and then there's things that you don't feel comfortable with, and then you want to check. So let's just sort the entities in this drawing by length. And why would I want to do that? Well, if I look here, you see all these entities that have like 0 length, 0 centimeters, or 0.01 nanometers. There's entities in here, and micrometers. So all that stuff, I bet it's garbage. So I just select the whole range of it, and they all get selected in my drawing. So let's zoom in really close. Yeah, you see that this bet is right. It is garbage. So this is one fast way to clean up your drawing. You just have to hit the erase key and you get rid of all that garbage. But sometimes it allows you to solve problems. Like, we received this drawing. This is an actual drawing we got from users. And I said, look what happens if I do a zoom extends. I do zoom extends, and boom, my drawing disappears. Well, that's an indication. Usually there's something, and there's an entity at a very high elevation. So let's look at the elevation of these entities. It's a mountain road, so it's not unusual that everything is at 1,200 meters elevation. So yeah, we'll go through that. Nothing unusual up to here. Also at 1,200 meters. And then suddenly 10 million kilometers, this arc. That looks wrong. So it's out there in space. So I will just erase it. And let's see what happens now. If we do again, zoom extends. It's cured, the drawing. So you can use this tool. It's incredibly easy to modify and how you want to see, how you want to look at your drawing today. So, and then maybe the configurable properties. I did not yet mention those, but like you hover over this polyline, and it shows you the slope. Fine, but now at the bottom you see this tips dialog that came up, and it tells you that if I press my control key, then instead of selecting the entire polyline, it will select only one segment. But for this segment, I don't see the slope, and I would like to know it. So how hard is that to get to know that? We go to the properties, and we want, for a polyline segment, we just toggle this slope property. By the way, if you have an extension application, look here. Like, these are all the extension properties, for instance, for BIM. So you can put all of those also in your properties or in the rollover tab properties. So now, next time that I'm hovering here, I can see, oh, this slope is 45, and this slope is 62. So it's that easy to configure. There's a lot of information that we offer you in BricsCAD.
Thank you, Hans. So, again, you've entrusted your engineering data with us, and it's in the drawing format. And I think you can see that in V18, we're delivering on the promise that Neil talked about this morning of giving you access and more functionality with DWG for the next 50 years. But I am lucky enough to announce something today that is absolutely unbelievable. So our friends in San Rafael have been advertising 35 years of AutoCAD, which means in 35 years, there's been no real innovation in DWG until today. Yeah, baby. We're speed-oriented, man. It's all about going really fast, and the future's super bright where we're coming from. Settings dialog. You've all seen it. You probably haven't leveraged it to the extent that the power it gives you inside of BricsCAD. But we're going to talk about a lot of other things in this session, including speed and better performance, but most importantly, something that I think is absolutely unbelievable. And I've seen it, and I've seen Hans demonstrate it to me, and I still don't believe it, but you're going to see it today, and it's pretty amazing. The ability to visually compare multiple drawings in seconds and pick the deltas between those drawings and make the decision to keep the entities you want to keep and reject the entities you want to eliminate. Now, let's talk about what this allows us to do. It enables a future where we can actually work in a multi-user environment on a single drawing simultaneously. How do we do this? We use a repository approach, and Neil talked about that briefly in his presentation. But this concept of storing data in a central place and aggregating it as required based on its history. One of the things you're going to hear in a presentation coming up later this morning is that we've removed the concept of history from solid modeling. And that gives us a whole new set of freedoms in terms of how we model in 3D. We're going the opposite way with drawing. We're adding history to drawing. Think about what that brings us. Now, here's a scenario. I have versions of a drawing that have a single endpoint of a single line that's moved. In AutoCAD, version 1, version 2, and version 3, each of those drawings is 10 megabytes. And the only thing that's changed in any of those drawings is the endpoint of one line has moved. So if I create 3 versions of that drawing, I have 30 megabytes. What happens in BricsCAD? First drawing is 10 megabytes. I move one endpoint of one line for version 2. That's 24 bytes of storage. The second version is 24 bytes larger than the first one. And it's in the same file, guys. This is beautiful. Now, in the third version, I make some additional changes and I add a kilobyte of data to that drawing. In the end, I can go to version 4 and I'm at 10.001. Now, this is even more important. At some point in version 6, I want to go back to version 2. How do I do that? Well, typically by time and date. So in this case, I asked the system to restore the drawing as it appeared at 4 p.m. on August the 8th. And what happens is BricsCAD goes back and parses the drawing and brings forward all the entities that were active at that state. If I want to go back to June 5th, I've got the same opportunity. Now think about what this allows us to do in terms of allowing multiple users to work in a drawing file simultaneously in the near future. And then the things that we can't resolve automatically, we resolve via visual merge. And that's something that Hans is going to show us next. I'm going to put on my glasses because this is pretty cool.
So, but before we're there, just a couple of more things, because we were talking about speed, and it's all about speed. We'll show some examples of what we think is important and where we have speed. It's like, this is a 20 gigapixel image, so not mega, but gigapixel image. And I can zoom it just like that in BricsCAD. And I can do things like change, let's change the transparency. So every pixel needs to be recalculated for that. Or let's change the view and switch the perspective on. You see the speed this works with. That's the kind of thing we do. We do, by the way, we do other nice stuff that I did not put your attention to, but you see this lady, how she keeps looking at you. Yeah. So that's the property to keep facing the camera. And again, other nice stuff that we think, let's see, I hit the wrong button here in my enthusiasm. It was this one I wanted. So look at this. We think this is fast rendering. Again, it's with the help of our friends from Paris. But look, you win time also because these images, they cast shadows. You don't have to fake them like in SketchUp or or you don't get a rectangular shadow like in AutoCAD. You win time by that kind of things. You win time also. Here, this is a heavy drawing, and the first time I switch layout, it will take you like 8 seconds because there's 30 viewports, and here the first time I switch to this layout, it takes like 3 seconds. Now we've been caching them all, so the next time, you see, it's instant. And by the end of the day, if you have been switching like 100 times your layout, it saves you a lot of time. Other ways to save time, it's like we've added a layout manager, and if you have really a lot of layouts, then we make it easy for you to switch between layouts, and we make it easy to reorganize. Like if you think this one, number 90, well, I want it to be the first one. And this reorganizing is much faster than when you're dragging tabs. Something else that has been sped up, if you say, I want to get rid of like 170 layouts, then it takes 1 second. That used to be different. It used to take half an hour. Another example of speed. So in this model, well, I've showed some views of it, but let's show you some other views. And by the way, do you notice how you now can keep your bearing because we've introduced view transitions, so you see where you are. Now, I was quite pleased with the level of detail in this model that I had added, and I took care of stuff like this is a small space where to avoid that the excess glue from that panel would spill out into the drawer, but it would be kept there. And I had pulled in detailed models from the manufacturer, so I thought, well, this is a clean model. There's not going to be much collisions. So let's do the test and see how many collisions there are. So how hard is that? We have the interfere command. We can just select everything and say we want to compare it with just everything. And now you have to look here in the lower back corner. It says it does 200,000 comparisons. And it's finished now. That's not bad. So that's 8 seconds. In AutoCAD, you can do that too. It will take you 8 minutes. Okay, that's a 60-time difference. But this is an exponential problem. This afternoon we will show you a model, a tower. There, BricsCAD needs 4 minutes to run, and it does 800 million and some, close to 1 billion comparisons, interference checks, because you have to check everything with everything. It does that in 4 minutes. In AutoCAD, we've also tried it, and we estimated after a while it would take between 25 days and 1 month to complete. That's a 10,000 times difference. So what does that mean? It means that you'll never do it. So you will not check whether there are collisions. And is it important? Well, I think it is, because my carefully crafted model, it has a whopping 346 collisions that were detected. So let's see where they are. So, and what would we use to do that? Well, the structure panel, of course. The interferences are grouped nicely together. So the first one is over there. And it's like a domino, it's a panel connector for 2 panels of the furniture, and it's apparently is inside this wall, which is wrong. Then what's this one? You see, we highlight every time you have the interference solid that has been created. It's reddish, and it shows you how the column is intruding into the beam. And you can solve these things at your own pace and continue the next day. So I'm just double-clicking and I see what's happened here is that my drawer runner is like intruding 0.5 millimeter into the panel, which it shouldn't. And if we look at the layers and we see everything is placed on the interference layer, and I isolate this layer, then you get a good impression of the number of interferences of collisions in this small model. And it is important because if you don't take care about it, your quantity takeoff will be wrong. There will be such a lot of things that will be off. So it's important that you can do it and that you can do it fast. So now comes the fun part. You get this drawing from a colleague, and he says, well, I modified a couple of things, but he has no more time to explain and he's off. So now you have to find out what the hell did the guy change in an 8 megabyte model. Good luck. So what we are going to do is that we are going to store this version as a repository. And then the second version with which we compare, we will add that drawing, that second drawing, to that repository. And we will then ask the repository, can you now tell us which elements have changed and how have they changed? So for this 8 megabyte drawing, that sounds expensive. But is it? Let's check. So I go to, this is the DWG compare tool that we're calling, and I select the second version of this drawing, and let's count how long it takes. Are you ready? 1, we're there. Okay. So again, these differences, they are reported and they are nicely grouped here. But before we do that, let's have a look, because Autodesk in version 2018, they introduced also the drawing comparison functionality. They had it for a while. It was in their architecture products. But now it became part also. So here you'll see what you get with the old school approach. So these are the same drawings, the resort version 1, resort version 2. And here I start the drawing comparison. And it started. Okay, let's work, let it work for a while. And we'll continue at our side. Oh, but I shouldn't start a new session. We already had this session. And we will see how we merge now, how we keep the stuff that we want from these two versions, and how it gets reported. So I click here in my structure browser, and up there I see the missing stuff that gets highlighted, stuff that is no longer there. And if I click on the modified, you see here, this has been modified. And if I hover over one of these, then the corresponding one is highlighted. You see, corresponding thing highlights. And there's a new entity too, and where would it be? I just double click it. I only have to learn once how to use this structure panel, and then I can reuse it many times in other parts of the application. So here, it indicates that the difference type of this entity is that it is new. And oh yes, I think this was something that was missing, and it's good that the guy added it. So I say, I will keep it. Keep me, yeah, keep me, I will keep you. It changes color, and it has disappeared from the list of differences here in the structure panel. So we'll do the same for the arrows. So I say, yeah, this one, no, I don't want it. This one, yeah, that's the one I want to keep. So I confirm I want to keep it. Here, let's say, well, this part I'm not very fond of, and this part that's left, I like it, so I'm going to keep it. And there's nothing more here in the difference list, so we're done. We have merged it. Let's go back and have a look at what AutoCAD is doing. It's that it has processed 1/6 of the entities. On average, it's a few hundred times slower. So it is important that you use this new technology, like the repository technology. This is really the future. It will allow you to cooperate, and you can automate the merging. So no longer the need, you're no longer forced to use XREFs to share work. You can work on the same drawing and check in, and in the unlikely event that you step on each other's toes, then you already have the tool in BricsCAD to merge. I'll first put this one out of its suffering. Okay. So we are ready for the future. You have your visual merge tool already. The rest of the repository technology we will introduce shortly in other parts of our application. And this model, we've used it last year and then we showed an animation that was registered. But this year we've added technology now to do that animation. Instead of doing it with a pre-recorded movie, we can do it live. So I'll use my clean screen. Watch out, this is addictive, the clean screen. You will you'll never get back to normal once you used it. So here we can use the combination of dynamic zooming, which allows me to go very fast to the object of interest, and once I'm close to the object of interest, then with dynamic zoom, you will see you slow down, and the zoom step becomes smaller and smaller until I can look at things like this edge. It's 6 millimeters in this huge model that spans more than a kilometer. So you can really zoom in close and fast. But you also want a tool now to walk through there. And how would you do that? That's what you use the navigate functionality for. And when you right-click, you have the settings to decide at the speed or the size of the steps that you take and how many steps in 1 second. Also, you can choose whether you want to walk on a horizontal plane or if you want the ability to fly. Well, I like that, I want to fly. So you point your cursor in the direction that you want to move, and then you just hit the arrow keys. It's like when you're gaming. And if you are coming at a location where you want to look around, you just stop and you drag, and you can look up. And what is important, you will not get an awkward rotation of your view. Your view keeps being horizontal. The horizon is horizontal. Yeah. So you can continue like this. And when you see the stairs, well, you point your cursor a bit upwards, and yeah, we can move up the stairs. And here we go a bit to the side, and like that. So you really can freely move throughout this huge project. Well, we have a lot more of new stuff in there, but we still have a lot more also to announce today. So this is where we will conclude. Thanks for your attention.
There's still more. I mean, think about it. That other product, 6 new features. We still have 7 or 8 new features we haven't even talked about yet, including Mr. McSwain. This one's for you, thanks to our friends at the ODA. The Civil 3D Object Enabler now, which is a part of TIGA, allows us to load, save, display, and snap to entities in Civil 3D drawings. And of course, Drawing 2018 read-write. But many other things. I think Hans showed you the face the camera property, which is a little bit creepy because she's always looking at you. It's probably because you're so good looking. But the smooth view transitions, thanks to our friends at Redway 3D. the navigation, and full support for the 3D connection, 3D mouse too, which is pretty powerful when you're working in the 3D environment. So a lot more to show you guys, but not right now. So at this point, I want to transfer the podium to Intergraph.